Hi, this is Aaron Wilson from KPRC2 Sports. I'm at the NFL owners meetings where we spent a lot of time today with Texans coach DeMeco Ryans. And we addressed the offensive line primarily in the other video, but I want to talk about some other topics that we went through and give you some of my takeaways from the conversation with DeMeco Ryans. Let's start with Derek Stingley Jr. And they have a philosophy. They want to draft well, develop, and then reward the young players that have earned new deals with big contracts, and they're willing to pay the top of the market, and they did so for Derek Stingley Jr., 3 years, $90 million. And a lot of teams talk about doing this, but not everyone can or has the players that have had success that they want to do new deals for them. So it's a good example of Nick Caserio getting the evaluation right and picking him in the first round out of LSU, and then being patient with Derek when he had a foot injury that he was still recovering from, and then working with him through some of the hamstring issues that he had earlier in his career. And you saw it all come together, culminate last season with an all-pro year. And he has 7 total interceptions, 5 in the regular season, and he's named to the Pro Bowl, and rightfully so, and all-pro. So for the Texans, and DeMeco Ryans cited the other example, Nico Collins, a year ago, 3 years, $75 million. And that's the kind of thing they want to do. They want to be able to have players that they sign early, before they hit free agency, and reward those guys. It's something that they're doing with a lot of other organizations that are successful, including the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Howie Roseman's long been a believer in extending guys early. You wind up saving some money because generally what happens is you don't lose the player, and they never hit free agency, so you're not competing with someone else for your player that you drafted, that you have a relationship with, that you developed. So look for that to be the way of doing business. Will Jalen Petrie be the next extension? Didn't talk about Jalen today, but yeah, that's something that this organization's interested in. I know he's interested in doing a new deal. We'll see if that mutual interest culminates in a deal. So, as they say, talk is cheap and actions over words. And I'm a big believer in that, but sometimes words suggest action. So in this one, we'll see. We'll keep monitoring that situation. And it's not a controversial situation or anything like that. It's just a situation of a young player coming off an injury that's healthy or now, and that they feel good about, and has a special skill at the nickel position. So going over a couple other guys, and I'll address some other players that have had injuries. Christian Harris, so as you guys know, he missed a lot of time with a calf injury. It lingered throughout the season, and then once he was activated, he quickly injured his ankle. It wasn't like they rushed him back, but obviously wasn't ready when he got back out there, and he gets hurt again. So DeMeco Ryans called it unfortunate what happened with Christian Harris, and he expects him to come to camp ready to compete. So we'll see how Christian Harris stacks up. They did add EJ Speed. Before I get to EJ, I want to talk about Tank Dell. Pretty much non-committal again on the season. My sources tell me that Tank Dell will not play the season after dislocating his knee, tearing his ACL, tearing his MCL, and his LCL. The only thing he didn't tear as far as major ligaments was the PCL, and there wasn't a lot of meniscus damage either. So you look at everything that's going on with Tank Dell, they're very non-committal, and they've been consistent with that. They're not trying to put a lot of pressure on that. They said mentally he's doing well. As you guys can see from his social media, he is in good spirits, and he's happy. And when he's back, I think it's 2026, and this is a long-term convalescence and recovery from this injury. So everyone's just got to be patient and wait for how long it will take Tank Dell to get back out there. So other topics, EJ Speed. You guys heard about my conversation with EJ and how excited he is to come here. He feels like the Texans are on the cusp of the Super Bowl. And one of the reasons he picked the Texans was because of DeMeco Ryans and wanting to play for a former Pro Bowl linebacker and the relationship they had. DeMeco recalled, even scouting him out of Tarleton State here in Texas, Division II school, was picked in the 5th round, and he's developed from special teams ace to become a full-time starter. Sounds like he's very much in the plans, very much in the mix as a potential starter next to Azeez Al-Shaair. So it was interesting to hear his comments on EJ Speed. Called him tall, explosive, fast, playmaker. So he liked a lot of things about EJ Speed, and it'll be interesting to see what happens between him, Henry Toto, and Christian Harris. So you got like 3 starting candidates there for the linebacker spot. Or will they use more 3 linebacker spots? Will there be a little bit of some 4-3 Will they always have a nickel on the field? Will they have Jalen Petrie play some safety? Another player that we got into, and this was the first time we had a chance to talk to DeMeco about several of these topics, is new safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He says C.J. Gardner-Johnson is going to really help Kalen Bullock. Really likes how much he attacks the football. He's going to help the whole defense. They can take away the ball. They can, tackle very well. That's super competitive. DeMeco said that he got fired up just talking with him about football and how passionate he is about the game. So, for the player to have that kind of mentality, that kind of attitude, and make that kind of impression on DeMeco Ryans, that kind of resonates with me. That says something about what C.J. Gardner-Johnson is about. I've been talking with a few Philadelphia people here. They said, hey, he's definitely the alpha in the room. So we'll see how it all mixes together with the locker room, everything like that. But yeah, definitely an interesting player that they've added to the mix here with the secondary. So it's, right now, Derek Stingley Jr. and, you have Kamari Lassiter as the corners. Jalen Petrie is the nickel. And then you have Kalen Bullock and C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Jimmy Ward and MJ Stewart in reserve behind those guys. What a secondary. This is absolutely loaded group and really impressive. Defensive line. One of the reasons I'd heard this was another reason that they'd signed Sheldon Rankins to a one-year, $7 million deal is leadership. They felt like he was a great mentor to younger players like Will Anderson Jr. I know is really thrilled to have Sheldon back. And he worked with him as a rookie and was a good presence and sounding board for Will when he was named the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. So you look at having a player like Sheldon back. You feel like Mario Edwards Jr. had also earned a new deal. So they did 2 years, $9.5 million for him. They're excited about having Darrell Taylor in his presence. And then, of course, doing a new deal for Danielle Hunter. Felt like he was very deserving of a new contract. And kind of like Stingley, where you want to pay guys. You want to take care of players that have played well for you. And he had earned a new deal. And, of course, we'll see where Trey Hendrickson deal comes in if they ever get that done with the Bengals. And that might trump and go over a deal that you have in place for a Danielle Hunter. So deals aren't always done in a vacuum. It's kind of like real estate. There are competing market forces. And so you have to be cognizant of what are the prices, what are the comps for an edge rusher. And that price is only going up. And when they do Will Anderson Jr., that price will be higher. So, the $30 million threshold, well past that. Myles Garrett at $40 million a year, and then you see Max Crosby in the mid-30s. So it's expensive, but these guys are special. They don't grow on trees. That's why you pay them. And you look at some other things with the offensive line. So we did talk about Titus Howard and how Titus can play tackle and guard. So it sounds like they're still figuring out where he's going to line up, but he figures into the plans at least one position. So they'd like to get him, kind of settled in one spot, but if not, they can move him around. Then you look at other things we got into on the tush push. As DeMeco Ryans said, it's kind of hard to penalize a team for doing something well, for making a good play, but it sure is tough for defenses to stop. And so there's a push-pull. It doesn't sound like they have the injury data to back up the assertion that it's a dangerous play. And that could make it difficult to get 24 votes, which is required, to abolish the tush push. And of course, Philadelphia, they've got some backing, so I think Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni, they're hoping for Kellen Moore and other coaches to come from the Philadelphia tree to back up the tush push, which help them get jobs, as Nick Sirianni accurately said. And that's one of the big agendas here on the league. They'll have a big-time party. Can't do a whole bunch of photos and videos in there. It's a social event, but it's fun. It's like you would expect. It's a nice party. There's owners, there's coaches, there's general managers, there's media guys like me. It's all milling around, and open bar, and lots of nice seafood. And I'm going to enjoy it. It is on the NFL. If it's free, it must be me. I'm excited to always have fun at this party, but not too much fun. But it's a working social event for me, and look forward to seeing a lot of my friends from around the league and had a chance to catch up with people. So the owners meeting is always a good event to cover, good for content, and good for you guys, because I get to bring you guys some information, and you want to know more about your favorite football team, the Texans, and of course the NFL. So that's the latest. And in terms of other things that I've just recently reported, they had a visit with Josh Farmer, the Florida State defensive tackle, all conference, about 6'3", 315, has played nose guard and has also played 3 technique. And he had 9 sacks combined the past 2 seasons. So he's a good interior rusher, and he anchors well, and he's got good feet, good hands. He's a strong guy and a pretty good athlete. Not a freakish athlete, but a good athlete. So they had a meeting with him last week, and I found out about it later in the week and reported that on Sunday morning. So that's another one to add to the list of visits for the Texans. So what's next? For the Texans, they're trying to figure out still things, obviously, with the offensive line. It was interesting to hear when I asked about tight end that DeMeco Ryans expects a lot from Brevin Jordan. Felt like he was having a great season. I agree. He was off to a good start before he tore his ACL. Talked about how tough he was. Played through the whole game with the torn ACL. He was very impressed by him. And they hope with Nick Haley's background with the tight end position, Coach Rob Gronkowski, the All-Pro with the Patriots, that they can get more out of Dalton Schultz in that group. And Cade Stover, too, is also coming off shoulder surgery. So, obviously last year wasn't great by Dalton Schultz, but, they'll chop it up again and hope that they can, get more out of the tight end position going forward. But, yeah, you look at where the Texans are as a team, at the receiver position, and I'd be remiss to not talk about Christian Kirk, about glowing reviews from DeMeco Ryans. Very excited about his playmaking ability and what he can bring to the table, all the things that he's capable of. And they're definitely a better receiving core with him. They, with Stephon Diggs, he emphasized they wanted him back. My understanding is that they weren't willing to pay anywhere close to the price that the Patriots did, which is a 3-year, $69 million deal, which is more of a year-to-year kind of rental of Stephon Diggs. But the Texans were not going to go to that financial stratosphere for Diggs, who's coming off a torn ACL, even though the rehab's going very well. They just felt like that wasn't the money they were going to spend, allocate for a Stephon Diggs. But yeah, that's accurate. They wanted him back. That's not just coach speak. They were legitimately interested in having back Stephon Diggs. But, it got to a point where financially it was kind of untenable, and then they stepped away from it. But yeah, Diggs wasn't a problem with the Texans. He was not a diva and all these things. He, with the exception of Green Bay, I can only think of that situation where I thought maybe made a little too much about him when he had the argument with Jair Alexander. But overall, yeah, like anything, they can't keep everybody. And some of your free agents inevitably you're going to move on from. So that's what they did with Stephon Diggs. So later we're going to have conversations with Cal McNair and team president Mike Simone. But yeah, that's the major takeaways from talking to DeMeco Ryans about the state of the team. And one of my last questions I got to ask him was about where he is as a head coach. And he says, I'm not afraid of hard work. I'm about getting better. I'm about communicating better, doing everything better, and trying to take the next steps. And that's what all this is about. All these are different topics, but overall it's about the team. As Bo Schembechler or John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh used to say, the team, and the team. And for DeMeco Ryans, it's about trying to improve the team and keep getting better, because what they've done in the past, it's good, but not great. And they're trying to chase greatness. They want to be a better football team. They want to deliver a championship for the city of Houston. And they haven't made it to the AFC Championship. They're the only team in the AFC that hasn't reached the AFC title game. So 0-6 in the divisional round, a tough history, and maybe they can make some history if they get back to that point. But as he noted, and everybody knows it's kind of obvious, but worth saying again, you don't start back in the playoffs. You're 0-0, and you got to earn it all over again to have the right to be a playoff team. Do I think that they're the class of the AFC South? Yeah, absolutely. But this isn't one of the better divisions in football, and the Texans probably should win even more of these games and have a better record. We'll see how they do, again, with another first-place schedule. So look forward to seeing the schedule in the weeks to come, the dates, the TV, all that stuff, prime time, see how that all works out for the Texans. And as of now, not hearing about an international game. Obviously, they were a candidate for the Brazil game. Doesn't sound like that's happening, but until it's officially announced, can't rule that out. But yeah, I don't expect them to be going to Brazil, which is good. I think that's not something that most organizations want to do, which is to travel out of the country. Very inconvenient and disruptive to the training schedule. And I'll say it, my 2 cents, making about me, it's my channel. I don't feel like traveling. I've been to Mexico City, I've been to London. I would be fine with all the games being in the United States of America. I understand that they want to market, they want to make more money as a league, but that is not my problem. I think they got plenty of money as it is. How about that? But yeah, that's just my 2 cents, my opinion. Nobody asked me, but I'm going to weigh in anyway about the NFL and international games. And I'm against them. I think that you shouldn't take away games from where the cities are based, because these, fans who pay your hard-earned dollar. I know there's a lot of international fans, but it's okay. You could travel to the United States even to see these games. It doesn't necessarily have to be in London. It doesn't have to be in Mexico City. It doesn't have to be in Brazil. But I know that they're going to continue to do this, continue to try to grow the game nationally and internationally, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But yeah, it's my opinion. I just don't feel like traveling. I don't feel like having to renew my passport and get on a jet, but we'll see. Anyway, yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble about that. But yeah, please like and subscribe to the channel, and check me out here and at KPRC2 on television, and at www.click2houston.com, and Instagram AaronWilson7128, and of course Twitter/X at AaronWilson_NFL. Thanks for all your time. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Until next time.